Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown,
the unofficial sumo podcast
for official sumo fans.
Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown. This is Ryan.
This is Jake.
And this is our Natsu. This is our Banzuke prediction for the Nagoya Basho. Let's start this over again. Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown. This is Ryan.
This is Jake.
And this is our Banzuke prediction for the Nagoya Basho. Jake, I know you're going to leave that false start in there, but I don't care.
Oh, God, yes. I might even repeat it.
Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown. This is Ryan.
This is Jake.
And this is our Natsu. This is our Banzuke prediction for the Nagoya Basho.
Oh,
I finally got it on my fifth try.
The power I wield as an editor is intoxicating.
But I understand your laziness and know that you will not put any such effort into this.
Damn. I do have a very obvious weakness. Speaking of intoxicating, we're going to play a game. So if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're Ryan and you can see me, I'm going to take a drink every time Ryan says a specific word.
All right, here we go.
No. I'm not going to be that obvious. I'm not going to just lunge for it every time you say it. But if you've said it in the preceding sentence or two, I'll go for it. This one doesn't count. This is just me preparing for what's supposed to be an extra long Banzuke episode.
All right. So if it is all right, I apologize, because I know that is my go-to change of subjects word. And I halfway through every episode, I get focused on it. I'm like, I can't say all right to go to the next subject, but it always happens.
Yeah.
So if you want to play along, it's not the correct word, but if you want to play along and take a drink every time I say all right in this episode.
Rest in peace.
Yes.
You were too young, no matter how old you were.
Jake, what else do we have going on?
Other thing I wanted to mention was I'm actually wearing their shirt today, Dallas Sumo Club.
Woo!
Excellent shirt. The Cowboy Zuna is what they call this logo. But on June 11th, this Saturday, if you're listening to this in a timely manner, as opposed to being a slacking podcast listener and listening to it after that.
How dare you?
Saturday, June 11th.
How you listen.
Yeah. Why bother at that point? But Saturday, June 11th in Fort Worth, and also streaming on Dallas Sumo Club's YouTube page, will be the first ever Cowboy Cup Sumo Open. I am actually driving down to Dallas because I have no regard for my own time or patience. But I will be doing ring announcing duties. We also have Bruce from Tachi will be there. We've got at least half of Sumo Kaboom. Both of the Sumo Punks will be there. It's going to be a great time. It's going to be biggest event in Texas sumo so far this year, it looks like, based on the attendance that we got so far. But it is going to be a blast. Make sure to either be there or support us by streaming, checking it out. We do have a couple heavy hitters. I wanted to get the roster out. We have Angel Della Torre driving. Well, I assume driving because he always drives. I don't know how he manages to do it. But Angel Della Torre will be coming over from California. We've got Kyle Ferreter, last year's open weight national champion. We've got too many people to mention from Texas. We got Caleb and Justin from our fellow podcast, Sake and Sumo. We got all sorts of guys from down there. It's going to be a great time. And a big special thank you to Robert Fuimaono, who is on the world's team this year for the heavyweights. He is out of Kansas City, which is between Des Moines and Dallas. And he,
for all you geography nerds out there, I have an 11-hour straight drive. And since it goes through Kansas City, I texted Robert to see, hey, can you help me survive this? So not only is he going to help me survive the trip, but depending on how he's feeling prior to the World Games here, he's going to try and compete as well. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of big names at the Cowboy Cup. Highly recommend it if you are in Texas, that you give it a try to get out to Dallas or Fort Worth. Technically, I don't know is there a rivalry there? Should I be stoking some fires? I don't think so.
Is it like a Minneapolis St. Paul situation where they're the same thing?
I think it's more like a Des Moines Ankeny situation, maybe like little brother.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
I don't think of
I have
that way.
I have no idea about the Texas.
Ryan, tell me about Texas
city
culture
rivalries.
here. Regardless,
Dallas is north, San Antonio south. That's all I know.
I mean,
Houston could be anywhere in between.
At least the thing you know is correct. I appreciate that. But no, either way, check out Dallas Sumo Club's YouTube page where it will be streaming Saturday, June 11th at noon Central Time.
So let's get started. Jake has informed me that he has a bit of a tight deadline. So we will go through the obvious stuff.
It is
quickly.
Not a tight deadline. I'm giving you almost an hour.
And you spent 45 minutes of it talking about the Dallas Cup.
I wish I could have dragged that on longer because now it's time for the Banzuke.
Yes. So we're going to go through the obvious stuff quicker so we can really stop down and unpack a couple of troublesome spots on this Banzuke. So Yokozuna, Terunofuji, obviously. Ozeki, it'll just be a reshuffling based on who had the best order the previous time. So that means this time Ozeki East will be Takakeisho, Ozeki West will be Mitakayumi, and Ozeki West 2 will be Shodai. At Sekiwake, we will have Wakatakakage remaining on the east side of the Sekiwake rank, and then Daisho will replace Abi at Komosubi after Daisho's 11-4 record and Abi's 8-7 record. At Komosubi on the east side, we will have Hoshoryu. He had an 8-7 record that is not going to be good enough to create a third Sekiwake rank. We've seen plenty of instances of Komosubi with winning records not getting promoted to Sekiwake as long as if they only had like 8, 9, even 10 wins, I think might not be enough to force open a third Sekiwake.
Yeah, certainly not like a guarantee by any means. I think it's one of those things that kind of depend. Oh, well, I'm going to shut up because I imagine this is going to be like the bulk of this episode here talking about this situation. But yeah, we've seen it's very rare to open up an extra Sanyaku slot. There's got to be some crazy circumstances, right?
I would say recently it's very rare to open up an extra Sanyaku slot. And then
this is going to crush you, isn't it?
I'll find out at the end. So I'm going to try not to let it work its way into my brain. At Komosubi West, we're going to have Abi dropping there after his 7-8 record. Despite the fact that Rikshi, like Kiribayama, Takanosho, and Kotonowaka all have a better claim to the West Komosubi slot than Abi based on the math, we know that Sekiwake with 7 wins just don't drop out of the Sanyaku ranks, so he will safely land at Komosubi West. So
just out of curiosity, like what kind of data do we have? Is that like
for 30 years it hasn't happened since the early 90s?
Okie dokie, that sounds fairly conclusive.
Yep.
Never mind, I'll shut up again.
So one of the big questions on this Banzuke, probably the biggest question, is how are we going to handle the log jam that is Kiribayama, Takanosho, Kotonowaka, Tamawashi, Ichinojo. All of them deserve to be Komosubi Maegashira 1, but obviously there's only 2 remaining spots out of those 2 ranks and 5 guys to fill them. So some people are gonna get treated very poorly by the Banzuke committee this basho. So a solution could be, like we mentioned earlier, opening new Sanyaku ranks. So, because we're not having anybody drop out of the Sanyaku, the only change that I'm predicting, at least, is Daisho and Abi switching spots. So we need to figure out, is there going to be new Komosubi ranks opened up? So the people that could force that open, Kiribayama with a 10-5 record at Maegashira 2 East, Kotonowaka 9-6 at Maegashira 2 West. He wouldn't force open a slot. Takanosho 11-4 at Maegashira 4 West. That's also an argument that you could open up a new Komosubi slot there.
So if there was going to be 2, it would be Kiribayama, Takanosho?
Yes, I think so.
Gotcha.
I think if there would only be 1, I think it would go to Kiribayama, but I think if you do 1, you got to do both.
Okay, fair enough. And is it a thing to open up just 1 as opposed to opening up 2?
I mean,
okay, that's at least on the table.
Yeah, I think so. Like if you had a Maegashira 1 East that had an 8-7 record, I think the recent precedent, it might have been a 9-6 record, but you could have Mike Shear 1 East. If there's nobody dropping out of Sanyaku, they would open up a third Komosubi slot for them. And it would just be that one slot. So further complicating the situation is a name that I threw in there, Ichinojo. He sat out of the previous Basho and because of COVID. So in the top division, we haven't seen anybody demoted at all after missing a Basho due to COVID. So that further complicates things, as one of those Maegashira 1 West spots is seemingly already accounted for. So we
take a drink. Sorry.
I'm just gonna keep soldiering through.
Honestly, the tiny bit that this might throw you off your game is already worth it for me.
I don't even think there's a word that I'm saying. I think you're just taking a drink every now and then.
That's not how drinking games work.
Drink whatever you want.
Isn't
that how alcoholism works, Jake?
Which of us is the more experienced drinker on this podcast, right?
I mean, that's fair. It is you, just to point out to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have multiple options of what we can do here between opening up new Komosubi slots and possibly dropping to figure out how to get all these guys to fit in here. So one option is don't create any new Komosubi slots and leave Ichinojo at his current rank of Maegashira 1 West. So the positives of that is everyone that needs to be moved up in the rankings can be moved up, but the order that the Rikishi should be in would not be right. So the order the Rikishi need to be ranked in is, if we live in a perfect world, Kiriyama, out of Kiribayama, Takanosho, Kotonowaka, Tamawashi. Oh my gosh, I'm struggling this episode.
Are you sure you're not the one playing a drinking game tonight?
Don't worry about it. So Kiribayama should be first with his 10-5 record for Maegashira 2. Takanosho should then be ranked after him with his 11-4 record for Maegashira 4. And then Kotonowaka should be ranked after his 9-6 for Maegashira 2. And then Tamawashi with his 9-6 for Maegashira 3. So if we keep Ichinojo at Maegashira 1 West at this rank, the order would have Kotonowaka and Takanosho flipped, because that would be the only way that we could get Kotonowaka any sort of promotion. That would be moving him over to Maegashira 2 East, because we'd have Kiribayama at Maegashira 1 East, Ichinojo at Maegashira 1 West, Kotonowaka moving over to Maegashira 2 East. Takanosho would take that Maegashira 2 West, and then Tamawashi would just move over a half rank to Maegashira 3 East.
That was like as rapid fire as like a freestyle rap, but I do understand the knot that we're tied in now.
Yes. So
also I have to take a drink from that.
Don't even care anymore. So I
bet you don't.
If we keep Ichinojo at that rank, we have Kotonowaka and Takanosho flipped in that order. Unless you decide not to promote Kotonowaka at all after a 9-6 record, which I don't even think is a possibility. Yeah. So if you don't care about those guys kind of being in the wrong order, this is a decent scenario to go with. It's not the scenario that I'm happiest with, so I'm not going with that one. Another scenario you could go for is create new Komosubi slots and also still leave Ichinojo at his same rank. So if we did this, I would think you create 2 new slots. Yes,
so when you say keep Ichinojo at his same rank, 2 people would pass him, but he would technically still be Maegashira 1 West, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Just making sure I understand.
Yeah. So if we did this, like I said before, I think we need to create 2 new Komosubi slots, one for Kiribayama and one for Takanosho. Historically, their rank and record combination would get them into the Sanyaku ranks. And in the past, they have even created new slots for this rank and record combination to create new Sanyaku slots. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. It would also allow Kotonowaka to be promoted to Maegashira 1 East, Ichinojo left at Maegashira 1 West, Tamawashi to Maegashira 2 East. So it would only be 1 numerical rank promotion for Kotonowaka and Tamawashi after 9-6 records. That's pretty par for the course for this.
That's okay. Sure.
We just saw Ichinojo basically get half a rank promotion for 9-6 record at Maegashira 2. So
it does get a little screwy right at the top. So yeah. Okay.
So I think if I was the one creating this Banzuke, not guessing what the Banzuke committee was going to do, this is the scenario that I would go forward with. I think it fair to Kiribayama and Takanosho to create the extra Sanyaku slots for them. You're not dropping Ichinojo down in the numerical ranks. Yes, in the order he falls, but who really cares about that?
We've
And
seen
you get
that
everybody
in the past. Yeah.
and you get everybody in the right order. It might mess some stuff up a little bit further down the Banzuke, just create bigger holes than we currently have. Is the word just Banzuke?
Do you want me to tell you if you get the
No.
right word?
No.
Okay, you want to leave it till the end?
The suspense is better if it's at the end.
Okay, good. That's
So,
the correct answer.
Yeah. But this isn't the scenario that I'm predicting to happen. Like I said, historically, this is what would typically happen for Kiribayama and Takanosho, but most all of the exceptions to those rules of like a 10-5 Maegashira 2 being promoted to Sanyaku ranks, even creating new slot, the exception to those rules have mostly all happened in the past 2 years, where we have seen multiple Maegashira 2 Rikshi with 10-5 records be denied Komosubi. And in the past 2 years, we also saw the first Maegashira 4 with an 11-4 rank to not make the Sanyaku ranks. That was Hokuto Fuji back in either 2020 or 2021.
And we have seen a decent amount of things, like a decent amount of precedent or like new practices feel like have been put in place in the last couple of years, right? Like there's been a lot of busting of longstanding historical stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And we also had Daisho when he was a Maegashira 1 and won the Yusho with 13 wins. Everybody thought, okay, they're going to open up a new Sekiwake slot for them. They did open up a new Sanyaku slot, but it was still only Komosubi. So after a 13-2 Yusho, he only jumped from Maegashira 1 to a newly created Komosubi slot. So they're really stingy with those extra promotions, unless they're absolutely forced to, like in the scenario I said with like a Maegashira 1 East with a 9-6 record. And if there's no open slots for him to jump into, in that situation, I still think they would create a new Sanyaku slot. But here they can move everybody up that had winning records without opening these new slots. So I think that is their preferred method. And so I do not think they're going to be creating those extra slots.
Okay, fair enough.
So another situation that we could do is we don't create any new Komosubi slots, and we now decide to drop Ichinojo down in the rankings.
This sounds like the cynical take that is the most likely.
And there is historic precedent to do this. It hasn't happened in the top Makuuchi division, but in Juryo after Hatsu 2021, that was the one where huge COVID outbreak right before the Basho started. There was a bunch of people missing. There were 9 Rikshi that were absent in Juryo due to COVID, including 7 of the top 10 Juryo Rikshi.
Oh God, that's right.
And in the next Banzuke, because there were so many people, there were only like 3 slots for people to move around in the top 5 ranks of Juryo. That just doesn't work with everybody who needs to be promoted up, everybody who needs to be promoted down. So what they ended up doing was they demoted each of those 9 Juryo Rikshi by 1 full rank. So the benefit of dropping Ichinojo is that now if we drop Ichinojo and we're not creating any new Sanyaku slots, we can get all the Rikshi that need to be promoted. They move up the Banzuke, and we can still get them to show up in the right order. That would be Kiribayama, Maegashira 1 East. Takanosho now takes Ichinojo's spot in Maegashira 1 West. Kotonowaka moves over a half rank to Maegashira 2 East. And then you have Tamawashi landing at like Maegashira 2 West or Maegashira 3 East, depending on where you drop Ichinojo down to. I don't think this is a situation where, Ichinojo 0-15, let's drop him all the way or something. I think it will be just around a rank.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like you can't treat his 0-15 the same way you can like Ishiura's.
Yeah.
Like obviously, right?
Yeah. The big downside to this one is that we have unprecedentedly small promotions for a Maegashira 2 West and Maegashira 3 West Rikshi with 9-6 records. I don't think there's ever been a Banzuke in the past where they have moved from the west side of their rank to the east side with a 9-6 record. They've always at least moved up 1 numerical rank. So that is if we're only assuming Ichinojo drops 1 full rank. We could move Tamawashi up to Maegashira 2 West and Ichinojo down to Maegashira 3 East. So this is the option that I am going with because, like I said, I don't think they're going to create any new extra Sanyaku slots. They just don't like doing that anymore. And so now, because I need to cover all my bases, I've laid out what would happen in those 3 scenarios. The thing that is going to happen now is they're going to create new Komosubi ranks, and they're also going to drop Ichinojo because that is the least likely scenario in my mind. So I'm not even going to go through what would happen. You're drinking a lot recently.
The words came out how they did. I mean,
so just to recap what I have in my prediction at Maegashira 1 on the east side, I have Kitabayama, and at the west side, I have Takanosho. The reason I have Kitabayama ahead of Takanosho is they both deserve to end up at the same spot of the Banzuke based on the math, but Kitabayama was previously on the east side while Takanosho was on the west side. So in my mind, that gives Kitabayama precedence for the top Maegashira rank.
yeah, well, I mean, Takanosho had one win more than Kiribayama, but
from 2 ranks further down.
From 2 ranks below. So wouldn't Kiribayama need to be ahead of Takanosho no matter what?
No, because if let's say they're at Maegashira 10 and 12, if you have a Maegashira 10 with a 10 and 5 record, he deserves to go up 5 ranks to Maegashira 5. If you have a Maegashira 12 with an 11 and 4 record, 7 extra wins and losses, move him up 7 ranks to Maegashira 5.
I gotcha.
Yep.
I'm hearing the word too often to keep doing mental math. So
no problem. Maegashira 2 on the east side,
God
I
damn
have
it.
Kotonowaka sliding over from Maegashira 2 west to Maegashira 2 east after his 9 and 6 record, only a half rank promotion. But we saw effectively the same thing last Basho when Ichinojo only rose from Maegashira 2 east to Maegashira 1 west after a 9 and 6 record. On the west side, we have Ichinojo. So in my scenario, with no new Komusubi slots being created, I think there are 2 spots where Ichinojo could drop to either Maegashira 2 West or Maegashira 3 East. If you drop to Maegashira 3 East, it would allow Tamawashi to be promoted 1 full rank from Maegashira 2 to Maegashira 2 West. But I'm just going to go with the precedent they set in Haru 2021 with the Juryo Rikishi and drop Ichinojo only 1 full rank. So that means Maegashira 3 East, I have Tamawashi doing the same thing as Kotonowaka, just sliding over from the west side of his rank to the east side after a 9 and 6 record. So we finally untangled that big knot. There's multiple ways you could go about doing it. I know I've talked to some people on Twitter. They're like, well, if I was creating the Banzuke, I'm gonna create new Sanyaku slots. So that's how I'm gonna predict it. It'll be very interesting to see how this comes out. I think it's going to be a very chaotic Guess the Banzuke game this go round.
Fair enough.
But now we can get to a little bit easier section of the Banzuke, and I'll try to speed through this as much as possible. So Maegashira 3 West, I think this could come down to 2 different Rikishi. Ura, who would have a 3 rank promotion from Maegashira 6 after a 9 and 6 record, or Takayasu, who would have a 2 rank demotion after a 9 and 6 record from Maegashira 1. So Takayasu, he has joy bias on his side, and despite deserving to be a rank below Ura, we have seen in the recent past that joy bias is enough to keep that like Maegashira 1 Rikishi ahead of the Maegashira 6 Rikishi. But in the last Banzuke, we had a extremely similar situation where an M6 Rikishi with a 9 and 6 record, just like Ura, was competing with a Joy Rikishi with a losing record for the Maegashira 3 rank. The Maegashira 6 record that deserved that spot by the math took it, overcoming the Joy bias. So I'm going to assume that the Banzuke committee is going to stick with this set of logic that they used last time for at least one more Banzuke, and I'm going to we'll see how it turns out. I'm nervous with it.
You probably should be.
Yeah. So I'm going to assume that the Banzuke committee uses that same logic, and we see Ura placed at Maegashira 3 West. This is one of the spots that I'm watching. It's not like I think I'm going to miss it by a lot, but I'm just curious to see if that joy bias kind of was just going away, was just a blip on the radar last boss show, or if that's just kind of how they're going to do things from now on, not quite giving that same bias that they had in the past.
Fair enough.
At Maegashira 4 on the east side, that is where I have Takayasu landing. And it actually will come down to Wakamoto Haru or Takayasu. And I have a convoluted theory that makes me think it will be Takayasu to take this rank ahead of Wakamoto Haru, despite Wakamoto Haru deserving to be a rank ahead of Takayasu, because Wakamoto Haru was also Maegashira 6. He was on the west side. He also had a 9-6 record. So the math for him and Ura and Takayasu, they all deserve to be Maegashira 3. Just Ura got the precedent over Wakamoto Haru for the previous rank because he was on the east side while Wakamoto Haru was on the west rank. So my theory is that I don't think the Banzuke committee likes to demote a Rikishi further than the math would specify they should go. So in this scenario, Takayasu was 6 and 9 for Maegashira 1 East. The math would dictate that he ends up at Maegashira 4 East, placing him at Maegashira 4 West would result in a half rank over demotion. I just looking at how they've ordered some things in the past, it seems to kind of line up with some like questionable decisions I thought they made in the past. But when I looked at it from that lens of them not wanting to drop people down the Banzuke further than they really should, unless they absolutely have to, I think it makes sense. So I think they're going to want to keep Takayasu from getting that over demotion and have him land at Maegashira 4 East instead of Wakamoto Haru. Are we going to bed, little Miss Riley? Do you want a kiss? No kiss? Okay, that's nice to have on the video.
Can I have a kiss?
Night night, Riley.
No, Riley, come back. Damn it.
All right.
By the way, I was catching up on hockey highlights, and every time they scored a goal, I took a drink.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, from now on, it's just, I'll take one when I want one, but I tried to find something that was both interesting enough to keep me occupied and random enough that there was no way you could catch on to what was going on.
What was the word?
There wasn't a word. It was just when they scored a goal, I took a drink. I was watching hockey highlights on my other screen.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
So I was kind of right.
Also, highlights pack the goals together pretty close. So not a great idea.
No.
Not a great idea.
Now that we have that out of the way, Jake's apparently tired of drinking, or he just ran out of highlights, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm caught up now. Yeah.
All right. So, yeah. Don't remember where we left off at, but yeah, Maegashira 4 East. I have Takayasu, Maegashira 4 West. Wakamoto Haru is
when Riley goes to bed, Ryan starts falling apart. Is that what's
apparently
going on here?
Well, I was falling apart well before that.
Yeah, she was very tired though.
Yeah. True.
All right. Well, anyways, I think we were at Maegashira 14.
Nice try.
Damn.
That would actually skip the boring part of the Banzuke. You know what? Let's just fly through this boring part of the Banzuke. So, Maegashira 5 on the east side.
That just worries me more.
Well, no, because the next 7 ranks, they range from extremely straightforward to fairly straightforward to figure out.
Okay, that sounds nice, actually.
Yeah. So there are 2 Rikishi that deserve to be ranked exactly Maegashira 5. Endo was previously on the east side, so I have him at Maegashira 5 East. Sada Naomi was previously on the west side, so I have him at Maegashira 5 West. At Maegashira 6, there are two Rikishi that deserve to be ranked exactly Maegashira 6. Aoyama was previously on the east side, so I have him at Maegashira 6 East. Tobizaru was previously on the west side, so I have him at Maegashira 6 West. I will say, yeah, exactly.
This is actually going great now.
Yeah. I will say that I wouldn't be surprised if these 2 were flip-flopped on the actual Banzuke to keep the previously higher-ranked Tobizaru ahead of Aoyama. But once again, I'm just going to kind of let the math fly on this one. Whatever the math says, I'm going to go with. That's kind of the logic that they used on the previous Banzuke. So the math says Aoyama was on the east side. He should be ahead of Tobizaru. So we'll see how that works out. At Maegashira 7, Okido Umi is the only Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 7, so I have him at Maegashira 7 East. And then we have Tochi no Shin and Hokuto Fuji are the only Rikishi that deserve to be Maegashira 8. Hokuto Fuji was previously on the east side, and I'm going to use a little bit of joy bias here and go with him at Maegashira 7 West. I will once again say I wouldn't be shocked if Hokuto Fuji actually lands ahead of Okino Umi because of that joy bias. But I think Hokuto Fuji at Maegashira 7, at the very least, is where he will end up. And then we go to Maegashira 8. So Tochi Noshin, now that we've placed Hokuto Fuji, is the only remaining Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 8. So I have him at Maegashira 8 East. And then we have Shima no Umi and Nishikigi as the only Rikishi that deserve to be Maegashira 9. Shima no Umi was previously on the east side, while Nishikigi was previously on the west side. So I'm going to have Shima no Umi just slide over a half rank from Maegashira 8 East to Maegashira 8 West. Once again, I think this might be a little bit of a mistake. If I were allowing some biases to play into my mind, I might put Nishikigi here and allow Shima no Umi to drop a full rank here. But like I said, I'm putting my entire trust in the math, and we're going to see how it plays out. So at Maegashira 9, Nishikigi is now the only remaining Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 9. So I have him landing at Maegashira 9 East. And Kotoeko is the only Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 10. So I have him landing at Maegashira 9 West.
That was a pleasant little run.
Yeah, it was. We're going to get into a little bit more complicated stuff now.
Just glancing ahead on the outline, it goes from like sentences to paragraphs.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
And it's really needless paragraphs, but you know how much I love explaining every thought and decision that I do.
Yep. I just got to stretch out before we get back into like the work part of this.
Yep.
No, go ahead.
So Maegashira 11. Sorry, I skipped ahead.
10.
Maegashira 10. So we need to start pulling from Rikishi that deserve to be Maegashira 12 to fill the Maegashira 10 ranks, since all Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 11 or higher have already been placed. We have 3 Rikishi that deserve to be placed at Maegashira 12, but one of them is Koto Shoho, who was 6-9 from Maegashira 9. So he would only be dropping 1 rank after a 6-9 record. We have seen that in the past, but I don't think we're quite desperate enough in how far down we're pulling people up the Banzuke. So I don't think we're going to see Koto Shoho getting such a generous demotion here. So instead, I have Chiyo Tairyu rising 3 ranks from Maegashira 13 after an 8-7 record to take the Maegashira 10 East spot. And then I have Meisei, who was also 8-7 from Maegashira 13, rising to Maegashira 10 West. So we get to Maegashira 11. I think at this point, we could safely place Koto Shoho at Maegashira 11 East, giving him a full 2-rank drop after his 6-9 record from Maegashira 9. And then to fill out Maegashira 11 West, we need to start looking at Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 13 or lower. Around here, I think, is where we need to be aware that we have Onosho, who was ranked Maegashira 5 with a 2-13 record. Need to be kind of aware, figure out where he is going to land at. This is pretty much the exact scenario that Ishiura was in last Basho. Rikishi that was ranked Maegashira 5 had a 2-13 record and missed a significant portion of the Basho due to injury. It's very shockingly similar situation. So I'm going to be very curious to see if he gets the same treatment as Ishiura did.
Yeah. For the record, he was 2-3 in the ring before he pulled out.
Yeah.
So like not cataclysmic, but we've seen absences treated effectively the same as losses enough that it doesn't matter when it comes to the Banzuke.
Yeah. So if that is the case where they're going to treat him just the same as they treated Ishiura, it's far too soon for us to be considering a no-show. But looking at the past precedent for Maegashira 5 Rikishi with only 2 wins, we only have to go back to 2019 when Chiyo Tairyu only dropped 6 ranks to Maegashira 11. So that's why he's kind of pinging on my radar right now. Although I do think in this scenario, it is too soon for us to consider no-show. So if we eliminate him from the conversation, we are left to consider Midori Fuji, who was 9-6 from Maegashira 16 West, or Teida Tsuyoshi, who was 5-10 from Maegashira 8 West. Since they were both previously on the west side, as I'm saying, I'm putting my full trust in the conventional Banzuke wisdom and the math this Basho. So I'm going to place Midori Fuji at Maegashira 11 West, since he had the better record among those two. And the reason I'm saying I put my faith in them is because what we've seen last Banzuke excluded, but over the past year or so, like if you're in a kind of like a different tier of the Banzuke, you'd kind of get like bias and be ranked ahead of somebody that was lower than you. So Tetsuyoshi coming from Maegashira 8 and Midori Fuji coming from Maegashira 16, that's a very different tier of the Banzuke. So a lot of times you would see the guy dropping down be ranked ahead of the guy coming up, despite the one coming up having the better record, which was kind of like the conventional Banzuke wisdom and how you would place people. So the last time we saw them kind of go back to that more conventional thinking. So I'm kind of hoping they do that same thing with this Basho. Then we move on to Maegashira 12. Since we were debating Tetsuyoshi for the previous rank, I have him landing at Maegashira 12 West, and then at Maegashira 12 East for Tetsuyoshi. And then we need to pull from a pool of Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 14 to fill the final Maegashira 12 rank. One of the Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 14 is a Juryo promotee. I don't think we're going to have the same kind of funny business we had in the previous Basho with Juryo promotees being ranked ahead of any Maegashira with winning records.
We can't have that.
Yeah. So I think Tsurugisho, I think, is out of the running here. I'm also going to be eliminating Chiyoshoma from the running for this spot because similar to my reasoning for Koto Shoho, he would only be receiving a demotion of 1 rank after a 6-9 record. So it comes down to a coin flip between Takeda Fuji, who was 4-11 from Maegashira 7, or Ichi Yamamoto, who was 8-7 from Maegashira 15. So if I follow the conventional math, we give it to the Rikishi that had the better record, and that would be Ichi Yamamoto. But I'm going to go ahead and give it to Takeda Fuji here. So this obviously goes against the wisdom that I've been using.
Everything you just said.
Yeah. But Takeda Fuji was on the east side, while Ichi Yamamoto was on the west side. Plus, if the Banzuke committee doesn't have to follow a set of rules for a whole Banzuke, then neither do I. I'm free to freelance if I want to sometimes. So yeah, for some reason, Takeda Fuji versus Ichi Yamamoto is one situation. I think it's the 8-7 record. I don't think they do a lot of favors for Rikishi with 8-7 records. I don't think you get a lot of benefit of the doubt to jump over people. I really feel like, and this might just be me looking at 1 or 2 Banzuke and seeing like some coincidences where it seems like that's happening. Where it just feels like they're not giving any extra benefit to 8-7 Rikishi or not treating them the same as other Rikishi with winning records as far as just not, like I said, jumping over people. But it's something I think I see, so I'm going to go with it.
All right. I mean, it's as good a reason as they ever give. So
yeah, exactly. They don't even give reasons. So.
Okay, you're right. It's as good a reason as they ever use.
I know John Gunning has recently said that the people predicting the Banzukes would put together a much better Banzuke than the actual Banzuke committee. Because nobody knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume that he's just talking about me. And
it's probably because they're using all sorts of experts rather than how they usually make decisions by having former athletes with histories of head trauma make all the, administerial. Is that a word? That
doesn't sound like it.
What's the right adjective there? Administrative
there it is.
Decisions. Yeah.
That sounds like a word I've heard before.
Yeah. I don't know what the point I was making was, but that's definitely the adjective for that, right?
Yeah, why not? We're going to roll with it. Take a drink every time you hear administrative on this podcast.
Oh, I heard it.
So now
I need to stop. Hockey was bad for me.
So now we get to Maegashira 13, where it comes down to the 2 remaining Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 14, Ichi Yamamoto versus Chiyoshoma. Here, I will give Ichi Yamamoto the tiebreaker since he has the better record, and they were both on the same side of the Banzuke, and they were both kind of in the same Banzuke tier, I think. So I have Ichi Yamamoto landing at Maegashira 13 East, and Chiyoshoma landing at Maegashira 13 West. Maegashira 14 this is where we're going to have to start figuring out where our Juryo Rikishi are going to come into this. So at Maegashira 14 East, I could put our first Juryo promotee here, the aforementioned Tsurugisho. All Makuuchi Rikishi with winning records have been placed after we placed Ichi Yamamoto at Maegashira 13 East. And Tsurugisho deserves to be one rank higher than the next Rikishi that should be placed, which is Miyugiryu, who deserves to be ranked Maegashira 15 after a 6-9 record for Maegashira 12. But a pattern I've kind of picked up on, and this is kind of similar to my 8-7 theory, is that the Juryo Rikishi typically needs to deserve to be ranked 2 ranks ahead of a Maegashira Rikishi in order to actually be ranked ahead of him on the next Banzuke. So in the previous Basho, when the Banzuke committee was generous to the Juryo Rikishi, they could have placed Azumaryu or Midori Fuji ahead of 7 and 8 Yutakayama, who ended up not being demoted at all on that Banzuke. Azumaryu and Midori Fuji both deserve to be ahead of Yutakayama according to the math, but they only deserve to be 1 rank higher than Yutakayama. So instead of placing them ahead of Yutakayama and giving him any sort of demotion for a 7 and 8 record, they left Yutakayama there and placed Azumaryu and Midori Fuji behind him, even though they deserved to be ranked ahead of him. And the final Rikishi with a winning record had already... Nope, that's not true in Azumaryu's case because he was ahead of Ichi Yamamoto. Ignore that final point. But
why do you remember every specific?
It's because I forget about every chore I should do in my house. I push out the needless stuff and keep the important things.
And keep the important things. Like,
yeah.
What did Azumaryu get for a record last tournament?
10 and 5, Juryo 2 East.
Most important fact that anyone could save space for. You're right.
Well, sorry, that was 2 Bashos ago. This past Basho, he was Maegashira 15 East,
Stop.
I believe, with a 5 and 10.
Just move on.
Okay.
It's honestly
that,
kind of getting disturbing.
All that being said, I'm putting Miyogiryu at Maegashira 14 East ahead of Tsurugisho because Tsurugisho only deserves to be ahead of Miyogiryu by 1 rank instead of 2 ranks.
Well, there you have it, folks.
We'll see if this whole 2 rank theory works out for me.
Ryan is trying to quantify what effectively comes out to be like, screw you, kid.
Yeah.
Like,
there has to be a mathematical reason for everything, Jake. There has to, or else what's the point?
Or else why are we even here?
Yes.
How are we justifying our enormous GSB salary?
If everything in the world cannot be defined by some set rule or logic, then everything is chaos and there's no point to anything and anarchy reigns forever.
Oh boy, am I glad I'm the one watching hockey and not you.
So for Maegashira 14, it is a debate for me of will the Juryo promotee go ahead of the drastically falling upper Maegashira Rikishi. So this is where the precedent they set with Ishiura the last Basho really comes into play. So as I mentioned, Azumaryu was Juryo 2 last Basho and went 10 and 5. See, that's why I remembered it, Jake, because I wrote it down in my outline. So just like Tsurugisho was Juryo 2 with a 10 and 5 record, and Azumaryu ended up ahead of the falling 2 and 13 Rikishi, which was Ishiura last time. So I am going to do the same this time and put Tsurugisho ahead of Onosho and have Tsurugisho at Maegashira 14 West. Once again, I'm going to throw in that caveat. I'm a little worried about this one just because Ishiura was on the west side of the Maegashira 5 rank and Azumaryu was on the east side of the Juryo 2 rank. This time it's flipped. Onosho is on the east side. Tsurugisho is on the west. That might be enough for Onosho to stay ahead of Tsurugisho, but I'm just going to stick with Tsurugisho going ahead of Onosho here at Maegashira 14 West.
Fair enough.
Then at Maegashira 15 on the east side, I do have Onosho landing there. It's just Onosho and 2 Juryo Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 16. So since he's the only Maegashira Rikishi in that debate, he automatically gets the tiebreaker over those 2 in my mind. And then we get to my next huge block of stuff after the Komusubi ranks.
This is like a page long.
Yeah. So
why are you wasting a page on Maegashira 15?
It gets interesting, I promise.
Oh, I don't believe you.
Wise.
All right. So, well, take a swing at it.
So from Maegashira 15 West on, you could tell me that there's 7 guys that go in these 5 spots. You could put them in almost any order and I would believe you.
I bet you this is one of those, like you said with John Gunning and his comment there, like they were like, oh wow, this is quite a block. I don't know. Let's put this guy there. And let's put this guy there. And meanwhile, Ryan is like researching Banzuke's from the 1930s. And it's like
that data is useless. They didn't even play 15 matches per Basho at that time.
As if that would stop you from citing it as evidence for mathematically eliminating some Rikishi from again, Maegashira 15. This is literally a page.
I'll have you know, I typically try to keep my research within the past 10 years, because after that, it's a whole different Banzuke committee that was running things that at that point in time. So it's almost useless trying to figure out trends from that far back. So the first thing we have to do, starting at Maegashira 15 West, is determine who is going to be going down to Juryo. And that's actually very easy on this Banzuke. Azumaryu was 5-10 from Juryo 15. Ishiura sat out from Maegashira 16. Kotokuzan and Kageyaki both had losing records, cut and dry cases to be demoted. Nobody else has a demotable record. Those 4 guys going down to Juryo. I don't think there's a question in my mind. There's some people, I think, trying to keep Azumaryu in the top division. I don't think you can do that.
That's a reach.
Yeah. So then we need to determine which Rikishi will be coming up from Juryo. Here's where the problem is. There are 6 Juryo Rikishi with promotable records and only 2 that are absolute locks. Tsurugisho, who we've already placed, he had the 10-5 record from Juryo 2, and Chiyomaru, who was 8-7 from the top Juryo spot.
Which he has to go up, so there's nowhere else up for him to go. Yeah,
exactly. So then you have Hideno Umi, who was 8-7 from Juryo 1 West. Seems like a lock, but it isn't always. Ryuden, who was 9-6 from Juryo 3 West. And then you have Dayamami and Nishiki Fuji, who were 11-4 from Juryo 6. So looking back at past precedents, just like comparing an 11-4 record from Juryo 6 versus a 9-6 record from Juryo 3 versus an 8-7 record from Juryo 1, it looks to me like Dayamami and Nishiki Fuji should have the fast track to get to Juryo ahead of Hideno Umi and Ryuden, but it is real close, and I could honestly see any 2 of these 4 Rikishi making it to the top division.
You didn't even mention Tohakuryu and Daishoho both got 9-6 records from top 5 Juryo, and that's so like I'm not saying that they should jump these guys. I'm just saying like there's so many guys in the mix here.
Yeah.
Compared to the only 4 that are coming down.
Yeah. And so the reason that Nishiki Fuji and Dayamami are in the pole position to take those final 2 Maegashira spots, they do deserve to be ahead of Hidenumi and Ryuden, according to the math. And like I said, based on past history, looking at those rank and record combinations, it seems like that 11-4 Juryo 6 is ahead of the Juryo 3 9-6 record, or the Juryo 1 8-7 record, or Juryo 1 West 8-7 record.
Sure. Because Juryo 1 East, if they have a winning record, again, has to go up somewhere.
Yep. So now we have our 4 Juryo promotees. Again, Tsurugisho, Chiyomaru, Dayamami, Nishiki Fuji. Then we need to determine their order. First, obviously, we've already placed Tsurugisho. He should be first. According to rank and record, everything, he should be first. Then if we go according to rank and record, it would be Dayamami and then Nishiki Fuji. But looking at past precedents, to me, this is just another one of those weird things where I think I see a trend that probably isn't there. It seems like it seems like a Juryo 1 East Rikishi that has a winning record gets a little boost over where they would be if they were like Juryo 1 West. So looking at the past precedent, like a Juryo 1 West Rikishi versus an 11-4 Juryo 6 Rikishi, the Juryo 6 Rikishi's ahead of him. A Juryo 1 East Rikishi with an 8-7 record versus a Juryo 6 11-4 record, the Juryo 1 East is typically ahead. And it just seems like if you're at Juryo 1 East, the very top Juryo spot, you just seem to move ahead a little bit further than you might typically. You get treated a little bit more like a Maegashira Rikishi than a typical Juryo Rikishi. Like we see that with the 10 and when we saw Oho with the 10-5 record from Juryo 1 East leapfrog over the 8-7 Ichi Yamamoto, who is in Maegashira, breaking our typical rule of you don't place any Juryo Rikishi ahead of a Maegashira Rikishi with a winning record. It happens with that Juryo 1 East Rikishi that has a winning record sometimes. So in my mind, there's a little extra boost given to a Juryo 1 East Rikishi. So because of that, instead of placing Daiamami or Nishiki Fuji, I'm going to have Chiyomaru be the next Rikishi that would come off my board when we're trying to pull out Juryo Rikishi.
And what rank are we talking here?
We haven't figured that out yet. We're just trying to figure out what
Oh,
order we're going to put the Juryo Rikishi into the top division. What spot they're
Okay.
going in, we still haven't figured that out.
Okie dokie.
So
I'll sit back down.
Then it should be easy to figure out the order of the last two. Daiamami, since he was Juryo 6 East, and then Nishiki Fuji, since he was Juryo 6 West. They had the same record from the same rank. But there is a slight wrench that has been thrown into that. Daiamami and Nishiki Fuji faced off in a playoff for the Juryo Yusho, which Nishiki Fuji won as the Juryo 6 West Rikishi. Could that give him a bump to pass Daiamami in the next rankings? I don't think so. But if it does, it wouldn't absolutely shock me.
Okay.
So the order that I think the Rikishi should be in is Tsurugisho Chiyomaru, Daiamami, and Nishiki Fuji. It is going to be a very interesting case to see if they do jump Nishiki Fuji ahead of Daiamami. But I really don't think they consider playoffs at all in rankings. But I think somebody did the research. I think this is the first like Juryo playoff where it's between two Rikishi of the same rank, and the winner of the playoff was the west side instead of the east side.
A fascinating data point that we will have enshrined in Banzuke history, only
and
to be
never need to
next
use
time.
again. Yeah.
Or they just do it different next time.
Yeah, exactly.
For what it's worth, though, Nishiki Fuji also beat Daiamami in regulation in addition to that playoff.
Yeah.
So he's got 2 wins over the guy, which, in my mind, you should jump a guy. You should leapfrog a guy if you beat him twice. But
yeah, but
that
Daiamami
means
was
nothing.
ahead of him. Yeah, Daiamami was ahead of him, so who cares?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, why not?
All right, so now we finally get to the question of who will be placed at Maegashira 15 West. So using the logic that I already discussed, where it seems like Juryo Rikishi need to be deserving of being ranked 2 ranks ahead of Makuuchi Rikishi, then it seems like Oho and Yutakayama would be the next to be placed, because Daiamami and Nishiki Fuji deserve to be only 1 rank ahead of them, and Chiyomaru deserves to be the same rank as them. But as I talked about, Juryo 1 East Rikishi, I feel like they're treated just slightly different from the rest of the Juryo Rikishi being promoted. When I look at how Juryo 1 East, specifically Rikishi, are compared to Makuuchi Rikishi with 6 and 9 records that were about 4 ranks ahead of them, it seems like the Juryo 1 East Rikishi with the 8 and 7 record typically gets the favorable ranking in that matchup. So for that reason, I'm putting Chiyomaru at Maegashira 15 West, and we will see if that kind of Juryo 1 East boost is real or not.
Okay.
From here out, it's easy again. So Maegashira 16, we're past my completely fabricated Juryo 1 East boost that I concocted out of nowhere.
I am super excited for the entire like full page justification when we do see what they choose.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the page on Makuuchi Maegashira 15 rank for our Banzuke recap.
Well, if I get it right, then it'll just be 2 sentences.
I got it. Suck it.
Yeah,
Next
exactly. So yeah, we're going to go back to typical Makuuchi versus Juryo thinking. So I have Oho and Yutakayama going at Maegashira 16 East and Maegashira 16 West, since Daiamami and Nishiki Fuji only deserve to be ranked 1 rank ahead of those 2. And then at Maegashira 17, I have Daiamami and Nishiki Fuji landing at Maegashira 17 East and Maegashira 17 West.
Makes sense.
So Jake, where are the places that you think I got wrong? I will say this Banzuke, really the middle portion just kind of falls into place for the most part. Sure. You could quibble with some East-West rankings, or maybe like a Maegashira 8 West versus Maegashira 9 East spot. But I don't think for the vast majority of it, you have potential for a 2 to 3 rank Rikishi miss. There's only two real troublesome spots. What are they going to do with the Magashira 1 Komusubi spot? What are they going to do with the Juryo Rikshi? Because we could easily see Daimami and Nishiki Fuji be ranked Juryo 1 next time, and we have Hideno Umi and Ryuden back in the top division.
I bet you neither guy that you pick to go at Magashira 15 ends up as a Magashira 15.
Okay. All right.
I'm just going like pure sassy spite pick for this one because you always make me pick something that I think you got wrong. And generally, when you write a full page on a rank, it's enough logic to like win me over. But
yeah,
we kind of like cross that threshold into like, now I just want you to be wrong on it. No, that's my pick, but yeah, I mean, I honestly, yeah, you have convinced me that the Juryo situation is going to be interesting and hopefully enlightening on, a little bit more what they want to do with the Juryo people. But yeah, also I am hopeful that there will be something weird going on with the Sanyaku extra ranks, extra Komusubi, whatever, just to just to kind of spice it up a little bit.
I'm going to be pissed if there's extra Komusubi slots created, because that's just going to ruin my entire Guess the Banzuke
because Guess the Banzuke is based on like specific number rank, not the order. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm sitting at number 7 in the overall standings, and if they add a Komusubi rank and that doesn't happen, I'm going to be. That's gonna like tank my rankings for the next
devastate
year.
Your stats. Yeah.
Oh, it'll tank me for the next year because they carry over.
Everyone will be one rank off, right?
Yeah.
Oh God, that's hilarious.
It would destroy
almost
me.
A guarantee.
Oh yeah, I think the past couple times that we've had situations like this, I've guessed wrong and just had deplorable Guess the Banzuke. Right, and that's why I've been out of the top 10 before.
Oh yeah.
Prior to the last 3 or so Basho.
That's what was keeping you out for sure.
Totally. I mean, kind of unironically, yes.
Well, yeah, because like the last year where it's been like no extra ranks or anything like that. Yeah, I mean, you've just been like blasting your way up those rankings.
Yeah, I got a 3rd place finish, top 10 finish, and yeah, like I said, I'm number 7 overall, and I want to stay there. I need to pass Leonid from the Tachiai blog, who's currently ranked number 6.
Your Banzuke senpai.
Yeah, I also need to pass Dolores Clem, who is number 4. He emailed me about the last Banzuke, so I need to pass him as well. I need to be number 1, Jake.
And until
you will not be free of these episodes until I am ranked number 1. And if I'm ranked number 1, but I haven't like won one of these, like been the overall number 1 person for like a singular Banzuke, we got to keep going until I win one of these. And then we got to keep going until I get all 42 spots. Absolutely. It's got to happen one of these days, Jake.
Oh, I just need to call your dad and tell him to like, invite you out for a game of catch that you've always needed to get that validation.
I had a good relationship with my dad.
Oh, no, you did, which is, just makes it more difficult to understand why this is. No, I mean, if it wasn't for my sass, these episodes wouldn't be as fun, would they?
They'd be even better because it'd just be pure logic and no emotion whatsoever. If it could be a lecture
instead of a podcast, you're right. That would be
everybody would love it so much more. You're absolutely right.
And like I certainly enjoy like the logic of the Banzuke, but like to maybe half the length of the show that you do.
If I'm not explicitly stating every single thought that went through my mind, what's the point?
Yeah. I love how
why are people even listening?
Yeah. What's the point? What's the point of even like doing this show? Like,
yeah. You either go in all the way or you don't do it at all.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
For our silly, like, naked wrestling ranking sheet that we have to like decode.
Yeah.
I love this sport so goddamn much.
Oh, I know it. I don't know how it got its hooks into us like it has, but I'm so happy it did.
Damn it, they're in deep.
Yep. So we'll find out if all of my overthinking was worth it on June 27th when the Banzuke is released for the Nagoya Basho, which starts July 10th. Fun little thing, Daigeko Inter Heia practice has resumed for the first time in 2 years. So Takayasu of the Taganoura Beya, he was wrestling with Daisho of the Oitekaze Beya. So this is the first chance Rikishi have had to face other Rikishi outside of a tournament in over 2 years. So we're going to have full capacity at the Nagoya Basho. We're going to have Jungyo after it. So it seems like we are back up and running full time. Hopefully it can remain that way.
Yeah. That's good to hear. And as long as we can do that safely, that's it. It's certainly more fun when we can get, a rowdy crowd. So yeah, I want to be there as long as we can do it safely. Ryan,
Absolutely.
What day is the Cowboy Cup?
June 11th, Saturday.
That's correct. At noon Central, streaming on the Dallas Sumo Club's YouTube page,
which I'm sure we will tweet out links to if you're interested in finding it, or you can just, like I said, listen to that and then type in that in your YouTube browser and you will find it.
You can type, damn it. You're a grown up. You
found this podcast.
Yeah. You can do it. We believe in you. Social media and all that. Leave us voicemails at 805-613-SUMO, and we'll see you at the preview, I guess, right?
For those people who don't know which letters translate to numbers for the phone number, that's 805-613-7866. Once again, 805-613-SUMO.
Do they even still have the numbers on?
I mean, not on my phone.
Yeah, my phone has them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. I don't pay attention to that.
Yeah.
I haven't needed to type in letters for a phone number since probably the 90s.
Since I was too young to be doing that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for listening to Grand Sumo Breakdown. Until next time,
Throw your salt high.
And keep moving forward.